Answers with Dr. Reju is a platform where we take a more in-depth and intentional look into various life issues and bring clarification so we can navigate our way through with knowledge. Do remember to follow, like, and engage us on Instagram at Patrice_radio and also on YouTube via Patrice Radio Live. Thank you and be good.
A better Nigeria, is it a myth or do we keep hoping?
Nigeria is a highly religious country. How come corruption thrives?
Why is adoption not encouraged in Nigeria? Is there a future for the Nigerian youth?
Being rich and famous, is that the only reason for being an artist?
What makes a great nation? Is it the leaders? What about the people?
This is Answers with Dr. Red.
With Dr. Reju, where critical life issues are clarified. My name is Agnes, and today Joseph and Lois will be my co-anchors. Hi everyone.
Hi Agnes.
Good evening. Yeah, and Dr. Reju, the Chief Resource Person of the Center for Transformational Leadership, aka the Sage, aka the man with many answers.
Yeah.
Good evening, Agnes. Good evening, guys.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah.
Alright, so today we're going to be talking about something very, I don't know, would I say it's interesting? Well, it's something I want to know, something I want to learn. Today we'll be talking about the benefits of failure. Anyone excited?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's failure. Nobody's saying anything now, right? Okay, so that's what we're talking about today.
Okay.
Benefits of failure. Mm-hmm. So it feels like everybody wants to hear success stories, want to hear how this person succeeded so that we can follow suit. But if you look at it, a lot of these people, right, have their own stories to tell. And most of the times when they're doing all the motivational speeches and all of that, most times they don't really take time to tell us about their failures.
Yeah.
And all of that, they all try to, get up, do this, do that, but they don't really tell you, they don't go in there to tell you what you need to know. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. So it's like we're teaching young emerging leaders how to fail. Does that sound?
Yeah, it's I think the way I would like to set the stage is that the true value of success, is measured by the possibility of failure.
Well,
yeah. The true value of success. You can't really, you won't be able to put a value on success until you put it side by side the possibility of failure. So failure does have benefits. In fact, we learn more from failure than from success. And if you look at it, that's how the whole society is wired to talk about success. But success, the very foundation of success, really, the reason success is celebrated is because of the possibility of failure. So failure needs to be understood. Failure needs to be seen in the correct perspective. I really love the way you sort of phrased it, that there are benefits in failure. So failure is not negative. Yeah. Failure is not fatal. Failure, my definition of failure is another opportunity to succeed. Yeah.
Okay. Right, let's put, is there a category? Are there categories of failure? Because if you look at it, there are people who don't maybe fail in the sense of it, they fail because they actually don't prepare. They don't do anything. They just go into things. They go into things unprepared. And then there are other people who actually do the preparation, who actually work on this thing, but they find out that they don't.
Great question. I was a bit confused when you were talking about category. Maybe you want to talk about failure types or something like that. But for the person that did nothing, right? He didn't fail. Yeah, that's. I mean, it will not be dignifying. I mean, it's we are trying to dignify that person by calling the person a failure. Yeah, that person that didn't do anything, he never showed up. It's inhuman to do nothing. So that person won't be put in any of the categories, even if you want to categorize failure. For you to be inactive, the only place where there is no activity is in the graveyard. Even there's an activity there because there is continuous decay. So I mean, for a living, the way you measure life and living is activity. So we cannot bring that person who did nothing into the discourse of failure or success. So let's leave that person out. Let's leave, and I want to believe those who are listening to us, they are trying to catch our mind on what we are talking about. So when we are discussing failure, the assumption is that something was done and it didn't work out as expected, because that's the way life is. Now, the reason we have to talk about failure is because, the fear of failure might be the reason why that person did nothing. Okay. Yeah, the fear of it. Now, reality is that failure is always a possibility. Failure is always a possibility. You can fail, right? Okay. But failure in the final analysis must never be an option. So failure is like a detour. Failure is like a bus stop, where, maybe the bus that you are in stops, but that's not your destination. But you have to stop because the bus stops.
Yeah.
But there's another time when the bus, cranks the engine again and begins to move. So many people don't want to fail. So because of that, they go through life with a level of anxiety. And if you are anxious, success becomes elusive. It becomes elusive. So when you're talking about category, we've already backed out the person.
Yes.
But now we're talking about failure now in terms of in your quest to where you are going, there are some setbacks. Those are the things that I will call failure. And in those setbacks, there's a guy who wrote a book, was a bestseller. And he wrote a book about how he carried out a particular initiative and it became a success. And he said, there's a better book that he can write, how it ought not to be done.
Yeah.
Because the book focused on how it should be done. That he can write a better book that will be like 3 or 4 times the size of this one. How it ought not to be done. Because the strength of this book, the reason this book is such a bestseller, don't credit this book. Credit the one that's not written. So most of the time, like you said, when people talk about their success, they're very silent on their failures. And that's unfair. That's selfish. Because everybody wants to be a champion. We need to begin to see failure as a badge of honor. Yeah.
I'm actually going there.
Yeah.
Okay, I have this question to ask, sir. We are millennials and we want to handle these issues so we can understand clearly, how to go about failure.
Cool.
For you, how has been your failure story? How were you able to handle failure?
Yeah, for those who work with me closely, it's always my favorite stories of the things I've done that didn't go well. I've tried my hand on a lot of things. I've been on journeys that I don't have business, being on. I've hung out with people that I don't have any business hanging out with them. So, but I can't begin to go into specifics. But you see, looking back, the whole essence of the program like this is that, when you fail, you don't see yourself as someone that's strange. Or maybe you are inept. Maybe you don't know how to do things. So that you can learn from somebody like me that people might look at me and say, oh, this guy is, he's having it all good. But honestly, I have done a lot of things. There was a time I planned to to acquire property, for our organization. And I remember I was able to rally everybody. I was able to rally everybody that this is it. We're going to get this. In fact, I remember we did a computer simulation of the property and we put our name on it. And we hung it in our, in our workspace. And when you lead, people believe you have to do everything right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have to know everything. I remember the time I had to come and address everybody that I don't think we're ever going to get this property. Yeah. Before I left home that day, it was a struggle. Because everybody still believed we're going to get it. But I know in my mind now that this is not going to work out. And how do I say this, without depressing them, without discouraging? And I have to come, and it was an opportunity, for me to be able to tell them that no battle ever go as planned. Right? But that in the middle of that battle, and I remember the day I had to also have a very personal, discussion with people about the fact that I fought my wife. And because, when you're out and everybody's saying honey, sugar, honey, no bitter leaf, no, everybody's honey, sugar, honey, sugar, honey, sugar. And that the whole essence was to let them know that when you get married, you are going to fight your spouse. Right? And that was where this whole phrase of having times of intense fellowship came on. That we are so close now that we don't talk during that time. So you see, those are, and tons of it. Because if you don't appreciate the value of failure, you will never be able to live with that, the most important trait of being a human, which is being adventurous. You won't be able to take risks. Right? You won't be able to take risks. It's not you don't plan to fail, but you have to understand that failure is always a possibility. But you need to take the conversation further that when I fail, that's when I sit and I want to do like a self-audit. I want to know because failure will tell you one basic thing. You are going to learn something critical when you fail. This is not how it ought to be done.
Exactly.
Yeah. You are going to learn that.
At least.
At least. Now you know something. This is not how it ought to be done. Because as regards this particular property, I sat down and I said, do we really need it? I didn't think about that. If we had gotten the property, what about the maintenance? Because this is a massive property. If I mention it, people know it in town. How are we do we have enough to put in it? So sometimes, you might want to do something just because of ambition or because it's what everybody is doing. And when it doesn't work out, so sometimes you need to be thankful that it didn't work out.
Yeah, when you look back.
When you look back. So failure is a massive lesson. There are a lot of things that you will never do wrong again because you once failed.
Yes.
Yeah. That's it.
Okay, so talking about risk, you mentioned something about risk. There are people who take unnecessary risk because they've been told to dream big, to be audacious, and take a massive action. How should one measure risk before embarking on one?
You will only know risk that is unnecessary by taking an unnecessary risk.
Okay.
It will never come by theory. It will never come by other people's story. So for me, there are no risks that are unnecessary. Yeah. Even if you took it in a presumptuous manner, you will learn.
Yeah.
You see, you can never tell a child that fire burns except he put his hand.
Sure.
Yeah. You will never be able to teach a child about pain except that child is put in a position where he really experienced pain. They say that experience is the best teacher.
Yeah.
Right. So don't remove that from your vocabulary, unnecessary risk. When you call risk unnecessary, you will never take it because you've already adjudged it to be unnecessary. So this is the way I tell people. If I see somebody falling, I won't stop it. I'll let the person hit the ground. right?
Yeah.
I let the person hit the ground. When you hit the ground, you learn.
Sure.
You learn. So, as a leader of leaders, as somebody who mentors people, when I see someone, because when I mentor people, we have times of conversation. We build relationship. And if I see that person headed in the wrong direction, all I need to check for myself is it going to be fatal? Is it life threatening? If it is none of those, I let the person go. Right? Especially when young people come and they are so fired up about something that they want to do. And from my own experience, I know that this is a journey to nowhere. I'll let them do it. Because I also want to learn. Maybe they're seeing something that I can't see. So I'm watching. Right? But I have a buffer that I would not reveal to that guy. Right? So that when he comes back, you're welcome back. And I'm going to high five the person for trying. You know, you will never be fulfilled if you didn't try something.
Yeah.
So please don't call any risk unnecessary.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
As long as the person is not going to die, you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so no risk is unnecessary.
Yeah.
No unnecessary risk.
All risks are necessary.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are you scared?
No.
So the fear of failure is what we must deal with. And people fear failure because they don't know that failure is beneficial. That failure has value.
Exactly.
So that effort is what you need to put into it, especially for you millennials. You know, you want to put in a little and get a lot. That's not the way. Like that line said, you know, that life, no double promotion in life. There's no double promotion. I don't even believe in it in schools, right? You know, so it's that effort. You see, sweat is not negative. That you break sweat, it's not that you're under a curse. Right? Sweat is a result of effort. Sweat is body metabolism. Now, when we use that symbolically, you know, you need to try your hand on something. Because humans need to look at themselves as, you know, we are work tools. We are work tools, just like a spanner, hammer, chisel. We are work tools. So when we don't work, and work requires effort, you know, so effort must be valued. Effort must be promoted. Effort must be defended. We need to noise the narrative about putting an effort. I was discussing this morning with somebody born in my generation about Nigeria. You know, that the reason we have problems in Nigeria is the culture of freebies. Right? People get things for free. You know, we you know, there's a generation in this country, they are the ones ruling us now. They've never really done anything. They've only gotten a lot of things to get, you know, on the free.
Yeah.
Look at a governor, you know, of a state who wouldn't even think of how to generate, you know, revenue locally. Is looking at, you know, going to collect salary in Abuja so that they can come. So it's that same culture. So we don't promote. In fact, here, even in churches, some pray that I want to walk like an ant and eat like an elephant. And every time I hear that phrase, I say, that's suicide. If you give the food of an elephant to an ant, you know, so we don't promote it. And that has put us in a position where we are so kind of averse to efforts, averse to hard labor. They even say, don't work hard, work smart. Those are wrong narratives, and at the end of that line is poverty. Poverty of mind, poverty of pocket, poverty of speech, poverty holistically. So we need to promote effort. You know, because of my experience in life, I don't, if someone fails, right, I only correct. In fact, in the correction, I asked the person to do a self-appraisal. Why do you think you are in this position? Why, you know, when you fail, first of all, take responsibility. That this result is the output of my efforts. Right? Is the output of my efforts. So that always, the value of failure is the lessons that you can learn from it.
You know, it's a good thing that we're learning this, because I was brought up to think that there are just two big holes and one is black. Okay, let me not say black and white. One is a bad hole, and the other is a good hole.
Good one.
And then the good is success, and the bad is failure. So if you fail, it's bad for you, and all of that. So I think it's a good thing that we're learning this, so that we don't paint failure as something that is so bad.
Yeah.
And all. So I think we should look at narratives.
Yeah.
Now there's this narrative that says that there's no such thing as failure.
It depends on where you are approaching that from. There is failure. Right? There is failure. You can't say there's no such thing as failure. That might be too simplistic. There is failure. And when you fail, stop. Right? And review. Reflect. Right? Reappraise. There is failure. I can ask you guys to bring out your dictionaries or whatever, and let's look at the definition of failure. Failure basically is, I set out to do this, and I didn't do it. Or I didn't get what I set out to do. That's failure. Right? Success is you arrive at where you set out to arrive at. Failure is you don't arrive at where you set out, to arrive at. Now, those who say that, they need to provide clarification that there's no such thing as failure. I think what they are trying to say is that failure is never fatal. Right? That when you fail, don't stop. When you see, like we say, you don't drown by jumping into water, by falling into the river. You drown by staying there.
Yeah.
Right? So the problem is not that you fail. Right? If you fail in the final analysis, it's not because you failed. You stopped. Right? You stopped. So those who say that there's nothing that has failure, maybe that's the angle, but that can be misleading, especially with a generation like yours that love catchy phrases. That there's nothing that failure and then you just continue. No. So there is failure. And you need to, mark your script, rebuke yourself, correct yourself, but never stop. Right? You don't fail, because of something that happened. My take is you can't fail except you stop. So maybe that's what they are trying to say, that there's nothing called failure. But a lot of people, because they tried something and it didn't work, and they shut down. They now begin to live their lives with a lot of care. They are so averse to risk. That is a tragedy. That's a tragedy. For me, there are two kinds of people. Those who have failed and those who are going to fail. Yeah.
Okay,
Only
sir.
two kinds of people. Those who have failed and those who are still going to fail.
Yeah.
Okay, sir. Talking about failing and not trying. If someone fails at something, how should the person bounce back?
First of all, like I said, be true to yourself. I blew it. Right?
Yeah.
I blew it here. Knock yourself. Right?
Yes, sir.
Knock yourself. Talk to those that you trust. When they knock you, don't say, this guy shouldn't talk to me that way. No. Let them knock you. Because you failed. You see, if you have ever been in a dressing room of a football team after they lost a match, you understand what I'm talking about. The coach will go berserk. And most of the time, it's not about the score. It's about their effort. Yeah. Even sometimes they lose a match, they get to the dressing room and the coach is full of praises. You guys walk your socks off, and I'm very proud of that. So it's not about the scores, because they might even win a match,
And they played.
and they said, "You guys, you won this match because the other team didn't show up, and I'm not happy about it. You didn't work, because for him it's failure, because there was a match plan that we have. You didn't work according to it. If that team had shown up, we would have been roasted. So we have to look at it. So because a lot of people, when they fail, they want everybody to pity them.
Yeah.
I don't pity people. Pity is negative. I can show empathy, but I don't pity people. I don't sit down with you to lick your wounds. Treat the wound, don't lick it. You're not a dog. treat the wound, right?
Yeah.
Bandage it, do whatever. You see, there are two, there's a way I talk about this. There are people who have wounds, right? Or some people, they have scars. I love those with scars. Yeah. But I said, are you a wounded soldier or you are a scarred warrior?
Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of people are wounded soldiers. If you are a wounded soldier, you are delisted, right? You're sent back home, right? Some, I've seen a movie before, I've forgotten the title of the movie. A guy that lost a leg, and he said he still want to be a diver.
Oh.
Yeah. And they said, no way, you can't do this, you can't. They said, you try. And he had to carry this. I've forgotten the title of the movie. Those who are listening to me, they know, the kind of movie I'm talking about. Because there's something heavy that you have to carry, before you can do that deep, the kind of deep diving. This guy, you see, muscle is fickle compared to the strength of the mind.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. The greatest miracle on earth is the human mind. Right? Is the human mind. So it's when you fail, knock yourself. Knock yourself. That's different from regret. Regret is a disease that has no cure. Never get to that point. You will get to the point of regret if you don't know the value of failure. Yeah. When you fail, you get a stripe, like in the military.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. You get a badge. It's a badge of honor. So, young guys listening to me out there, they are meant. That's why your generation plan a lot.
Yes.
They love to plan. I want to. They never do.
Yeah.
I want to. They fear failure.
And a lot of organizations do strategic planning, and we don't see it end up.
Exactly. There are a lot of people now. There are businesses. They train people how to plan.
Yes.
Strategic planning. Is it strategic planning supposed to produce a strategy? And a strategy is not strategy until it has feet and hands.
Yes.
It's actually concretized. You can touch it. It's working. It's actually working out. It's not talk. They say talk is cheap.
Yes.
So the people plan. I always tell people something and they don't like it. If your life continue like this, one day you wake up, you are 56 and you have done nothing. You have done nothing. So it's the fear of failure that's why people don't take actions.
Okay. Right. There's this. So the fact that one fails, is it? Would I say that's like a sign of success? Okay, I failed. Means okay, I succeed at this thing.
You don't.
Do you have to fail?
You don't. You don't plan to fail, right? You see, someone who desires to do something good, you are prone to errors. A very adventurous person, you are prone to errors. But you don't plan to commit an error. It's in your drive to doing what you plan to do that you are prone to errors. I love, airplane technology, right? There was a particular time I was traveling somewhere and there was this massive rain before we took off. And the pilot made an announcement. Because, you see, when you travel, passengers are always in a hurry. They want to get to where they are. There's a delay. Now we're on the runway. This massive rain started and the guy stopped. And everybody was kind of saying, oh, looking at the time. And the man said, I've never had a pilot make that kind of announcement. He said, for my safety and your safety, right? For my safety and your safety, it's not safe for us to take off now. That I want to live too. I want to live too. So the guy who flies a plane and crash or have a forced landing, he wasn't planning to do that. But you see, that vocation, that occupation itself is prone to a lot of errors. And, vocations are different. Even if I love football. if a striker commits an error, if it's a goalkeeper, it's same error, right? They pass the ball to you, they kick the ball to you, you couldn't catch it. If you pass the ball to a midfielder or maybe to a striker and the guy didn't pick it up, it's still manageable. But there are some occupations, that your error can really determine the outcome, right? So it's very, very important that we don't gloat over failure because you are listening to this, right? You have to know, at that particular time, is this a time to take a risk, right? This is, my phrase is, go except you hear a no. Yeah. Go except you hear a no. If you don't hear no, don't look for no. Right? No pilot will put the plane in the sky and want to crash. Right?
Yeah.
No. So, but in life, there are unforeseen circumstances. There are circumstances beyond our control. So because circumstances are beyond your control, you don't now stop to take a step. This is my issue here. Because you counsel some people about, there was a young guy who told me years ago, say, I don't think I'm going to marry you because almost all the married people that I've spoken to, they only tell me about the problems in marriage. Yeah, that's all they always tell me about problems. I said, no, marriage is fun. Marriage is fun. Go into it like fun. But in that fun, while having fun, you are going to have challenges. You're going to have challenges. I remember the most important counsel my mom gave to my wife when we were going to have our first child. Called my wife aside. Labor is painful. Don't listen to them. Labor is very, very painful.
Okay, that's scary.
It is scary, but it's real.
Yeah, it's like preparing yourself.
Yeah, for the worst. By the time you know that labor is painful, and you get there, when the pain comes, you are expecting it. So it's more bearable. But if they told you, no, you're just going to sleep and wake up and have the baby on your side, the way they say it, and all those kind of things, and you listen to those, you will be, once you are not, so people listening to this, they now have a better approach to failure.
Okay, so this is where yes.
Really?
What is everybody looking at me? It's time up, guys. It's time up. Yes. So this is where we draw the line on today's episode of Answers with Dr. Reju, where critical life issues are clarified. I hope you learned a few things from the benefits of failure. So failure is not final.
It's not fatal.
Fatal, yeah.
So can we talk about how to handle success on the next episode?
I think that will make a lot of sense.
Because he mentioned that, Dr. Reju mentioned that we learn more from failure than success. So we need to learn how to handle success so that it doesn't destroy us.
Right, so my name has been Agnes, and my co-anchors have been Joseph and Lois. So we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
This is Patrick's Radio.
Give us a call or chat us on WhatsApp on +234 8144 56 9000. Check out our website and interact with us on www.answerswithdrreju.com. Like our Facebook page, Answers with Dr. Reju, or send us an email at answerswithdrreju@gmail.com. On Twitter, we are @Dr. Reju Answers. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel, Answers with Dr. Reju, where you can get all our episodes. Join us again on Answers with Dr. Reju, where critical life issues are clarified.